little bit of this lesson based. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do tomorrow is have a little bit of a writing workshop. I'm going to bring along some examples of senior fellowship and fellowship. Can you just put your hand up if you are planning on fellowship and senior fellowship? Okay, and don't know. Okay, so senior is where most of your document is about impacting on other people rather than students. Okay, so if you're doing a lot of stuff where you're shaping the practice of other academics, then you're senior. If it's mainly on students, then it's fair. All right. So what I want you to think about tomorrow is one of these areas of activity. So you'll know that your fellowship application, if it has to address all of these, okay, and the easiest way to start writing it, because all of the dimensions of the fellowship are interlinked. But if you start with an area of activity, okay, and then from that we'll build in what core knowledge you need to do that activity and what professional values are embodied. So have a think about that, because I want to have a little bit of time doing some writing and perhaps getting some feedback on that. So let me just flick through this here, if I can find the other. Yeah. So the idea is if you start with an area of activity, so just pick one of those. All of that stuff is on the virtual learning environment. So anything that you do, whether it's designing a class, assessing and giving feedback, what were the other ones? Planning, evaluating and development, okay, or teaching and supporting learning. Okay, any of these areas of activity that you want to focus on. And then what knowledge do you need to be able to deliver that? Okay, so what is the knowledge that you need to deliver that? And then you add in the professional values that you're demonstrating. Okay, so if you've already got something started, bring it along. If you haven't got anything started, think about an area of activity that you'd like to focus on to get you started, so that you can start to buddy up and get writing on this, because really we're not going to have an awful lot of time between now and when I come back in September. You'll all have a nice break, and then from there obviously your teaching will start, so really you're going to have to do a lot of writing between now and when I come back in September. Yeah. So that's that thing. Has anybody got any questions about what they need to do for that? Right, good. Right. In Module 1, you all talked about something that you would like to change in your practice in September. Do you remember that? Some of you said you were going to do problem-based learning, some said you were going to do flipped learning. I have this, I recorded it all, everything you said you were going to do. I want you to think about the next steps, or share perhaps in your groups how far you've got along that journey in terms of thinking of what you're going to do. So we might sort of change groups in terms of there's a number of people looking at creating a game, a number of people looking at flipped learning, a number of people looking at problem-based learning, and we will try to work in those groups so that you can support each other. So there's quite a lot we're going to get through tomorrow. And then the last thing is we haven't talked very much about reflection as an individual activity this module. We talked about it last time. But I want you to engage in a little bit of creativity in your reflection, okay? So you have a choice of things that you can do. I want you to reflect on what you've learned this week, okay? That's been a bit, you haven't had much time for reflecting at all. And I want you to create something out of that reflection, okay, depending on your artistic skill. So do you remember I showed you like the digital narratives, the little short videos? So you can find a couple of pictures and just voice over those, okay? Less than a minute long if you're going to do a digital narrative to share. You can create a picture digitally, artistically, using any materials you like, a 3D model that kind of sums up your your reflection. You can write a poem, you can give us a dance, whatever, okay? You can use whatever creative medium you want, but I don't want an essay. Okay, so the heart of that piece is what you've learned this week, okay? You can extend it to what you've learned this week and what you might like to change in the future. It's a very difficult assignment. It takes some. Well, you can just get started on it. You've got an extra hour break You've got 4 homeworks yet. One is, I'm going to give you some time to do this tomorrow. We're going to do some of these activities tomorrow, okay? But you need to have started in your group, identify the video and think about a strategy. That won't take you very long. You should already have identified the change to practice that you're going to implement. I just kind of want you to revisit that in your mind, so you don't actually have to do anything about that. The second one, think about an activity. That's just for your writing workshop, so just gather up anything that you've already written. If you haven't written anything so far, we're going to be spending tomorrow doing that, okay? So it's really just as a heads up to think about where you want to, where would be most beneficial for you to spend your energy there. So it might be something that you kind of, the activity might be a straightforward one, teaching and supporting learning, and you kind of might already know that and just want to do a piece of writing and have somebody look at it. Or it might be one of those areas that you're not very familiar with and you want to get started with and have some conversations with so that you get a better idea. So it might be providing support and guidance environment, something that maybe you're not too sure what does that mean. So you might want to focus on that one. So you won't have done very much for it, yeah? So this is really about what's going to support you best going forward, yeah? So if you've written something and you think you're going to benefit most by sharing that with somebody and getting some feedback, then bring that along. If you haven't written anything, but you kind of would know how you're going to do 2 or 3 of these, but there's one of these that you don't really know how to get started with, would it benefit you to do that one? Yeah? So it's really up to yourselves how you want to pitch that writing workshop. We're going to have a bit of time tomorrow just doing some writing and sharing. Okay? Yeah? So where you focus your attention is entirely up to you. What's going to help you most taking us forward to the fellowship?
So in our application we have to write for all the areas,
yes.
But we must have only one focus.
Only
we
one?
Must have only one focus, like I can choose to teach.
No, you have to cover all of these.
No, we have to cover, I know, but let's say I'm planning to change my teaching.
Oh yeah, no, for tomorrow's activity, your plan is only about one thing. Yes. But this fellowship application has to cover all of these. Yeah. Okay. But for tomorrow's writing exercise, all I want you to do is think about what's going to benefit you most to spend time doing. Whether it's something that you've already written and you want to share, or something that you want to begin writing and you want more help, know where to get started. So that's going to be the 2 ends of the spectrum there. Yeah?
So
okay.
We have to choose one of the activity areas. For example.
For the writing workshop, yes. For tomorrow, just to get started. Yeah. Okay. But you also need to think about what you're going to change in your practice. But again, that's just to provide support. So you've already identified that. You don't have to kind of have a fully fledged plan by tomorrow morning. It's all I want you to do is to come to the class with some ideas. Okay?
The second one is the third one.
Third one, the change of practice that you want to implement. So that's the one that you spoke about at the end of module 1, and you all kind of said, this is what I'm going to do. You had a pledge, this is what I'm going to do to change my teaching. Okay? And the last one is the one that's difficult, and that's going to take you some time.
Reflective creative.
Yeah. This is the one that will take you a bit of time. If you need some time in the morning, you will come to me and say we need an hour to do this, and I'll let you off. Okay, any more questions about what you need to do tomorrow? Okay, happy enough? Okay, right. you don't have any questions about what you've got to do for tomorrow, once I've stunned you all into silence, or almost silence, I'll be here for a bit while I'm clearing up, so if you've got any other questions, then please come up and ask. Otherwise, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The aims of assessment. Today I want to go a lot more deeply into it. In the first module you kind of did an audit of your current teaching practice, and I think the outcomes of that showed that most people are using 1 or 2 or 3 different types of assessment, but they're not really using a broad range of assessment types. And actually when we sort of started to critique them, they're not really achieving what we want to achieve in assessment. So the idea is to take that forward today in terms of enhancing some of our assessment practices so they really drive forward student learning. And because when I was here last time, April seems an awful long time ago, I will just review some of the things that we talked about then for your benefit and for mine, and make sure that we all remember what we did all those weeks ago. Okay, so is it working today? No? Very dodgy